This is an analysis from Alpha Business Media. Welcome. Today, we're going to deconstruct the challenges and the immense potential within Nepal's most vital agricultural sector. Now think about this. For over half of Nepal's population, livestock isn't just an industry. It's the very foundation of their livelihood. And right there, you've got a fundamental paradox. You see, on one hand, this sector is the absolute lifeblood of the nation. It's like a living, breathing bank account for millions of families. But on the other hand, it's stuck. It's caught in this low productivity trap, so much so that it can't even meet the country's own demand. So in this analysis, we're going to untie the interconnected knots that are holding this entire sector back. We'll start with the paradox of potential, then we'll dig into three core challenges: the feed foundation, health and genetics, and the broken supply chain. And finally, we'll see how coming together is really the key to unlocking a powerful, synergistic solution. Okay, let's dive right in. First up, the paradox of potential. We need to identify the systemic challenges that are really putting the brakes on this vital economic engine. So here's the thing. The core issue isn't just one single problem. It's actually a series of interconnected challenges that all feed off each other. You've got a chronic feed deficit, which means animals just can't reach their genetic potential. Then there's limited access to vets, which leads to high mortality and, you guessed it, low output. And on top of that, inefficient market infrastructure just eats away at farmer profits. All these knots are pulled even tighter because the industry is so fragmented, with small farms having almost no market power. So let's start by untangling that first knot, the feed base. All right, knot number one, the feed foundation. We're talking about solving the chronic deficit that is literally starving this sector of any real growth. I mean, it's pretty simple, right? You just can't expect high milk yields from a hungry cow. I don't care what its pedigree is. And the scale of this problem is, well, it's immense. We're looking at a nearly 53% protein deficit in livestock feed. That's not just a small problem, it's a systemic handicap for the entire sector. But the good news is, there are practical, farmer-level solutions that can build a truly resilient and nutritious feed foundation. First up, cultivating modern, high-yield forage crops. Next, there's a simple, super low-cost method called silage in bags, which lets farmers preserve feed for the dry season. And third, leveraging something called agroforestry, which is basically using forage trees as vertical pastures to get a stable, high-protein food source. Pretty smart, right? Okay, so even with a stable food supply, you've still got a ceiling on your potential. That brings us to our second knot, health and genetics. This is all about unleashing an animal's capacity for high performance. But here's the reality. There's a huge gap in animal care. The average farmer might be just 1.4 kilometers from a local paravet, but they're a whopping 22 kilometers away from a professional veterinarian. That's a huge distance. What's been shown to be really effective is a market-driven system of these community-based paravets. They're basically bridging that critical healthcare gap. Now let's talk genetics. Even with a perfectly healthy animal, there's still a limit on output. Take the local Kari goat. It's a tough animal for sure, but it tops out at an average weight of about 27 kilograms at 18 months. But check this out. Through strategic crossbreeding with a Boer goat, that weight jumps to 45 kilograms in the exact same time frame. I mean, that's a dramatic increase in meat yield, and it can absolutely transform a farm's profitability. It's a total game changer. So producing more is great, but it's only half the battle. Now we get to our third knot, the broken supply chain. This is all about the massive challenge of actually getting those products from the farm to the consumer efficiently. And believe me, the losses here are just staggering. We're talking inefficient transport, poor handling, no proper storage. It all adds up to as much as half of all perishable produce being lost before it even reaches a consumer. That just completely erases a farmer's profits. So here's the crucial point. The solutions don't have to be complex or expensive. Simple, affordable tech can have a massive impact. For example, just switching from bags to plastic crates, that cuts transport losses from over 30% all the way down to less than 6%. Or these zero-energy cool chambers, they can extend the shelf life of vegetables by up to 15 days with no electricity. And hermetic bags, they slash grain storage losses by a third. It's incredible. And it's not just about preventing loss. There's immense potential in what's called value-added processing. Take Chirpy, for example. This is a traditional hard cheese that went from being a Himalayan survival food to a multi-million-dollar international export as a premium dog treat. No kidding. Exports grew 3.5 times in just 5 years. It just goes to show you how processing raw goods can open up incredibly lucrative new markets. But let's be real, all these great solutions, better feed, new tech, processing, they're often totally out of reach for small, isolated farmers. And that's where we get to the real key, strength in unity. This is where cooperatives come in as the binding agent for real systemic change. You see, collective action is the absolute key. Cooperatives give these farmers the scale they need for collective marketing, and that gives them the bargaining power to actually get a fair price. And the data doesn't lie. Farmers who sell through a co-op earn on average over 16 rupees more per kilogram. That's a huge difference. And it's not just about sales. These co-ops are so much more. A fantastic example is the Priya Women's Cooperative. It brings together 443 women goat farmers. It gives them access to loans, training, vet services, and crucially, they pioneered transparent live weight sales, which guarantees fair pricing for their members. They've even become a regional hub for those high-quality boar goat breeds we were just talking about. Okay, so we've looked at the individual knots. Now, let's talk about the big picture, the synergistic solution. It's time to tie all these threads together to create a truly prosperous livestock sector. So we've seen these powerful individual solutions for feed, for health, for logistics, but the trap itself, that cycle of low productivity, is still there. So the big question is, how do these individual fixes actually break that cycle for good? Well, the answer isn't some single silver bullet. It's all about how these solutions work together. The key word here is synergy. Real success here requires a coordinated approach, where progress in one area actually amplifies success in another. Think about it. A high-yield cow is pretty useless without high-quality feed, and your investment in better genetics is not secure unless you have accessible vet care and insurance. Her milk only turns into profit if it can get to a processing facility through an efficient supply chain. And what makes this whole system possible? The organizational power of a cooperative. So by integrating all these proven solutions, everything from a simple silo bag all the way up to a women-led cooperative, Nepal can truly transform its livestock sector. It can go from a cycle of just getting by to being a powerful engine of prosperity. And that leaves us with a final thought. True transformation, the kind that really lasts, often requires not just solving problems, but deeply understanding how they're all connected. So I'll leave you with this question. What systemic trap in your industry could be unlocked by identifying and addressing its interconnected knots?